So I managed to close the cord of this headset in my recliner, and so one of the parts is very bare, and I'm not sure how that's going to affect the audio quality. We'll get through this, and I'll just assume that everything's okay. I'll upload it, and if it is really bad, I will just have to buy a new headset. I want to give a follow-up to that last video. A lot of people have seen it, and a lot of people have an opinion about it, and so here we are at one more Jericho movie that is controversial. Well, it's been a while, so I am happy, I guess, to some extent, that it is here again, and I get to play the YouTube game, which really I haven't done in many months. So here it is. There are one thing that you get on the YouTube channel here, on the Jericho Movie YouTube channel, is when there is a good refutation of a point I make point of it, and I accept it publicly. Not a lot of people do that. That's what I do here. And there are 2 points that I have gleaned from the comments that I would like to accept, and one general consensus refutation that I do not accept, and we'll go into that. There were also 2 videos uploaded in response to that video, and I have not seen both of them. I have learned from the past that I can get quite riled when I watch responses to my videos, and so I will do so after making this, because I want to get these points out as clearly and articulately as possible, which is a challenge for me at times. So first, the first refutation that I accept is, in my previous video, I represented to you that the kamikaze pilot was not a God-driven faction. I am told by sources that I trust that I am incorrect in that, and certainly kami is God in Japanese, and kaze is wind. Kamikaze, I should have known that, but I didn't, and I accept that refutation. The second refutation that I accept, and I was actually pretty stoked about this one, because this is good thinking at work, and there is just blessed few YouTube comments received by really anyone on YouTube that consist of this quality of thinking, and so here it is. And in fact, I will go back, find this YouTuber, put a link to his channel by chance that he has videos, and go check it out and subscribe to him, because he deserves it. What's cool about this is that he took my my definition of fanaticism, which I said was an intensity of belief. And he said, look, Jonathan, if you say that fanaticism is just an intensity of belief, and it's that intensity that informs our actions, you are still saying that belief informs our actions. Beautiful. I accept that refutation. But now the refutation that about 90% of you would have me accept, I do not accept. And it all comes down to the idea of what the devil belief is. To name a few specifics, it was things like, well, Jonathan, do you believe that you're talking in a microphone now? Do you believe you're talking into a camera? Do you believe that you're on the internet? Do you believe that there is, this was a good one, do you believe that there is a general consensus out there that you want to refute? And so on. I would grant you that when we use the term belief in the colloquial sense, that we can do really whatever the hell we want. But when we're talking about hopefully more refined subjects such as these, we get a little bit more strict in our use of terms. Belief is oftentimes in the vernacular equivocated to mean specific knowledge. I contend that that is not appropriate at all. And it's funny, I didn't make this distinction because I knew I was going to be talking basically to the atheist community in here. And I have heard them on numerous occasions say down with belief, because they have a very active definition that belief is something that is not testable by science. And they draw it in with faith and so on. A lot of you got on the boat. A lot of you are on board with me. A lot of you did not. So here it goes. If I have the knowledge that outside right now it is raining, I will take an umbrella with me. And it is because of my specific knowledge that I will take that umbrella. Knowledge informs actions. That's fine. If I see that it's not raining, but I see that it is predicted to rain on the weather forecast, I will use that specific knowledge to take the umbrella with me. If I miss the weather forecast and I do not see that it's raining, but I see that there are dark clouds lingering on the horizon, I am forced to speculate and to present then, if no one else, then just to myself, a testable hypothesis as to whether or not it's going to be raining in the next few hours or by the end of the day or whenever I happen to be outside. Based on whatever hypothesis I would posit, if to no one else but myself, I will either take an umbrella with me or not. And then I'll get to find out whether or not I was right by mere fact if I'm wet by the time I get home. But at no point during any three of these scenarios do we have to invoke the notion of belief. When we're talking about the possibility of surviving death, we cannot talk about that in terms of specific knowledge. We must talk about it in terms of belief. We must talk about it in terms of something other than what can be known. And this is a contention, actually, that I will be siding with atheists more than theists, because the theist would probably like to say, well, through my faith, I know that there is a God. That sort of thing. I reject that. I reject that. I just do. If you're relying on faith, we're talking about belief. We're talking in a world that is separate and distinct from human epistemology, from human knowledge. And really, that's, I think, the big hookup, is that when we're talking about belief, we are remarking to an epistemological situation. And I suppose that's what is the major hookup, or the hang-up on this situation. But again, I reject the many hundred of you who say that that's all belief. It's not belief, it's specific knowledge. Belief is that which we cannot test, and I think it goes beyond even that. To tie this idea in then with nationalism, and like I said before, I accept the refutation that kamikaze is not a good example. If we were to suppose, however, something like Nazi Germany, or any, if you afford me the slack to just even talk in hypotheticals, any situation where the individual will value their life less than some kind of ideal. Like, for example, and I know these for examples, these hypothetical situations are just asking for pot shots. So spare me and just roll with me. Imagine that there is a fanatical, to use my, try to be coherent with my, try to use the same terms. A fanatical utilitarian believer, or I guess. Utilitarian? Yeah. Fanatical utilitarian who is an atheist, who is of the disposition, because we're trying to figure out what this belief thing is. So we'll say, for the time being, of the disposition that religious people are danger to society, to the greater, to the collective, to the whole. And there are only 10 such religious people left in our hypothetical world. They're all down at church right now. And all that this one utilitarian would have to do is strap a bomb to his chest, end his own life, those 10 other lives, and he would promote the well-being of the hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people, hundreds of millions of people. I don't know how many people are on the planet. Everyone on the planet. Support their well-being at the cost of so very, very insignificant, piddly amounts, being his own life and the lives of those 10 religious people. Now, he's not doing that in the name of God. He's rather putting his life somewhere below an idea. And I think that more appropriately gives us, gives us more of an approximation of what I was getting at with the sense of fanaticism. So that being said, that we are not talking about specific knowledge, but talking about something that is untestable. And to play with this idea of fanaticism such that we're talking about the individual valuing himself less than an ideal, and realize that's experimental language at this point. And so I would be very considerate of critique, especially at that point. But I think that's a start. Because if you are willing to die for something, it doesn't have to be God, but we see lots of situations where, yes, I would die for my country. Yes, I would die for this idea. I would die for whatever, my value system. And that value system needn't contain any kind of higher being, any kind of God, any kind of transcendental reality of any kind. And I think we'll leave it at that. So, two things I accept. Kamikazes was more God-based than I represented. I accept that refutation. The second one, very clever. The way I was defining fanaticism was not really proving my point. And for the points I mentioned earlier in the video, fantastic work there. 90% of you, however, were critiquing me on the basis of a logical fallacy of equivocation. And I reject your refutation.